At my father's wedding, my uncle whispered, "Let's pull his pants down when he approaches the altar." Wait, what? I nearly choked on my pre-ceremony whiskey as Uncle Rick laid out the most insane wedding prank I'd ever heard. We were standing in the church bathroom, adjusting our matching groomsmen ties, when Rick casually suggested we commit what could only be described as ceremonial assault. "Your dad's been way too cocky about this whole wedding," Rick said, checking his reflection like he was planning a bank heist instead of his brother's humiliation. "Helen's family thinks we're all trailer trash anyway. Might as well give them a show they'll never forget." He pulled out his phone and showed me a YouTube compilation titled Epic Wedding Fails that he'd apparently been studying like battle footage. Rick had been acting strange all week, but I'd chalked it up to typical wedding stress and the open bar at last night's rehearsal dinner. Now he was explaining his master plan with the enthusiasm of a military strategist. "Here's how it works," he said, pulling out an actual diagram he'd drawn on a napkin. "You grab the left side, I grab the right side, we yank hard, and boom, Dad's standing at the altar in his tighty-whities while the organist plays Here Comes the Bride. The beauty is, by the time anyone realizes what happened, we'll be halfway to the parking lot." Rick had clearly put more thought into this pants-pulling operation than most people put into their actual wedding vows. The more details Rick shared, the more I realized he'd been planning this for months. He'd researched Dad's belt size, tested the tensile strength of different trouser fabrics, and even practiced his yank and run technique on a mannequin at the department store where he worked. "Look, I timed it perfectly," he said, showing me his stopwatch app. "Exactly 30 seconds after the processional music starts, your dad will be in the optimal position, far enough from the groomsmen that we won't get tackled, but close enough to the altar that maximum people will see his underwear situation." What made this even more ridiculous was that Rick had apparently recruited other family members for what he called Operation Pants Down. Our cousin Jimmy was stationed near the church doors as a lookout. Aunt Martha had been instructed to create a distraction by loudly commenting on Helen's dress, and even Grandma Pearl had been given a special job that involved dropping her purse at exactly the right moment. Rick had turned Dad's wedding into an elaborate heist movie where the target was my father's dignity and the prize was, well, nobody really knew what Rick thought he'd accomplish besides traumatizing everyone present. The breaking point came when Rick revealed his backup plan in case the pants pulling failed. "If we can't get his pants, we go for the toupee," he said with the confidence of someone who'd clearly lost touch with reality. "Your dad thinks nobody knows about his hair situation, but one good yank and Helen will see she's marrying a bald guy who's been lying about his follicles for months." The fact that Dad didn't actually wear a toupee, he just used expensive hair gel, didn't seem to factor into Rick's elaborate revenge fantasy. I realized Rick had completely snapped when he started talking about the greater good of humiliating Dad in front of 200 wedding guests. "Someone needs to knock him down a peg," Rick said, practicing his pants-grabbing motion in the mirror. "He's been acting like he's better than the rest of the family ever since he started dating that real estate woman. This wedding is his chance to show off, and I'm going to make sure everyone remembers it for the wrong reasons." The pure vindictive joy in Rick's eyes made it clear this wasn't about pranks anymore. This was about destroying Dad's happiness because Rick couldn't stand seeing his brother succeed. I made my choice and immediately texted our cousin Sarah, who was sitting with the other family members in the front row. "Rick planning to pants Dad during ceremony. Alert security now." Within minutes, 2 very large ushers had positioned themselves strategically near Rick's assigned seat, while Sarah whispered warnings to other family members about the impending pants crisis. When the processional music started and Dad began his walk down the aisle, Rick made his move, only to find himself immediately tackled by cousin Jimmy, who decided at the last second that he didn't want to be part of wedding assault history. The ceremony proceeded perfectly, while Rick was quietly escorted to the parking lot by church security, muttering about missed opportunities and family betrayal. Dad never knew how close he'd come to becoming the star of Epic Wedding Fails, and Helen's conservative Alabama family left thinking we were a perfectly respectable bunch. At the reception, Rick tried to sneak back in through the kitchen, but Grandma Pearl hit him with her purse and told him to find some dignity before you lose what's left of your family. Dad's wedding became legendary not for pants-related humiliation, but for being the day Uncle Rick learned that some pranks crossed the line from funny to felonious.